Hello, my name is Derek, and this is Random Philosophy. Today we're going to be talking about the mystery of being, part one. This is from Gabriel Marcel's Gifford Lectures, 1949 to 1950. And this was made into book form, and this is all from volume one of that book. So he first talks about how in philosophy there seems to be a history of one philosopher comes up with his theory of the way the world is, and then the next person comes along and he says that theory was all wrong, and here's my theory. It answers all those problems, and it's more complete than that other theory. So it kind of reminds Marcel of playing nine pins. You know, one group sets up the pins, and the other group comes and knocks them down again. And Marcel suggests that it can be tempting to give up on philosophy because of this. If you notice this process of one group creating a philosophy and then the other group just coming and knocking it down, it just keeps happening and over, and it can cause people to just want to give up. And Marcel suggests that to do that would be like committing suicide, so a type of maybe intellectual suicide, but suicide nonetheless. And it's tempting, but he says there may be another way. And Marcel, he says he's gonna do things a little bit differently. He sees philosophy a little bit differently. It's not for Marcel, philosophy is not a set of dogma, and it's not a way to demonstrate what is the case, but it's an aid to discovery. And that instead of creating another system, Marcel wants to show us how to do an investigation into the nature of reality itself. And for him, that was a spiritual reality. And so one might ask, how if we're if we're going on a voyage, if we're on a quest for discovery, then how do we know we're on the right direction? And Marcel, being a phenomenologist, he said you have to look at your own, just listen to yourself. Look at, investigate your own consciousness. And you're on the right track when you're leaving discord behind, when you're going from warring with yourself to actually meeting some of the expectations you've created. One of the key terms throughout this lecture series is a situation. And Marcel says that we humans are beings in a situation. So a situation is not something outside yourself, but it's something that that you're, that you find yourself involved in. It's very personal. It's all encompassing. And Marcel also reminds us that we're going to be thinking critically. So we're not going to worry about popularity. And Marcel realizes that his way of doing things isn't going to be appreciated by everyone. And he likes to think of it as he's like an artist, and not everyone will appreciate the work of an artist. And he wants to remind us that just because something is not popular doesn't mean it isn't worth pursuing, and doesn't mean that it's not valid. So Marcel's view of God, and it's tempting to think that belief in God is a simple matter of just yes or no. But Marcel suggests in this modern age, and he wrote this in the 1950s. He was speaking about this in the 1950s. Even back then, there were some that might just say, I'm not even sure what it means to believe in God anymore. They wouldn't think of themselves as being agnostic, but they reject the idea of they reject this idea of a cruel God. And Marcel even said that there are probably those who consider themselves to be believers, and if they were to explain their view of God to a theologian, he would reject that God as an idol. And then there are some who consider themselves to be atheists, and they reject a view of God that deserves to be rejected. Another question that Marcel asks is just what is a philosopher? And from Marcel's point of view, it's someone who asks the true questions. And then, of course, you must ask, true from whose point of view? And Marcel suggests that doing philosophy is it's like carving. You're trying to uncover something, and there's skill involved. So what does this voyage require, voyage of discovery that we are going to go on? Well, it's something that requires mental courage. And that is something that's more rare than physical courage. And there must be a desire there to follow a line of reasoning to the end. It's not something quick. And one must steel oneself to insults and accusations. Marcel himself was accused of being a fascist because of the way he was thinking. And Marcel suggests that we need to beware, because if we choose this path, we're going to be seen as renegades, and people are going to wonder what kind of benefit we're getting from all this trouble. And people are going to accuse us of doing something that is meaningless. But also, this path requires that the voyagers have goodwill. And he suggests that we look to the Gospels themselves to see what is meant by goodwill. And Marcel hopes that we will embark on this voyage with him, because we are men of goodwill and peace.